There's another company now that's the focus as well, as Joe said, of this anti-woke movement or whatever it is. Target, because of a pride collection it has. People have been posting videos of social media of themselves going into Target's pride section and damaging the merchandise, harassing employees about the brand's LGBTQ-focused clothing. Far-right politicians like Representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert have posted messages speaking against the company. And Republican Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio said Target has, quote, waged war on its customers by selling Pride merchandise. In response to the backlash, Target announced it would pull some of its Pride-themed merchandise. Joining us now, the president and CEO of GLAAD, Sarah Kate Ellis. Today is the first day of Pride Month. Sarah Kate, it's great to have you on with us. So much to talk to you about as we begin this Pride Month. But let's start there in your reaction to not just the rhetoric we're seeing against Target, but the decision by Target then to sort of cave a little bit and remove some of that Pride merchandise.
Yeah, I think what's really important is to add the word extremist to all of this. This is a minority voice that has a loud megaphone right now, and is target. They've said it. They've laid out their playbook. They want to make Pride toxic, which is supposed to be a celebration of our community and a lifting up of our community. They are trying to poison the waters, and what they're doing. Target has had a display for years, decades, probably at least 10 years, for Pride. And so this year now they're targeting these folks. What's interesting, though, and often horrifying, is that they're using violence. This is not let's boycott, here's a sign-on letter. This is AK-15s. This is we're coming to destroy the store. This is bomb threats. So it's at a very increased level of intensity. And I think one of the things that's really interesting on this first day of Pride is a report that we're actually breaking with you, or releasing first with you. 70% of Americans feel that corporates should sponsor LGBTQ moments and events and should include LGBTQ folks in their advertising. This is not the majority of Americans, and that's what's really important to focus on in this conversation, because we're giving a big megaphone to a small group of people. In terms of Target's response, I can't say I'm happy with it. I think if you back down to bullies, you give them more energy. And so I think that Target and these other companies need to step up. And you've seen companies who they've gone after them, Nike, North Face, and they said, no way, we're sticking with our values, we believe in this, and we're moving forward, and they've backed down. So that's really important to keep in mind as well.
So Sarah Kate, the corporate boycotts, the threat of violence you just mentioned, the anti-trans rhetoric, and in some cases legislation that we're all sort of seeing at once. I was speaking to members of the LGBTQ community in the last couple of days who say they entered this Pride Month with a sense of real fear. That they worry that a time that is meant to be so celebratory actually could be dangerous. They suggested they'd be concerned about going to some Pride events because they're afraid of what could happen. And you mentioned the possibility of guns. Talk to us about how you and your organization are feeling right now as we head into this month with this as the backdrop.
Yeah, I think there have been over 500 anti-LGBTQ bills proposed. At GLAAD, we've recorded over 160 threats of violence or actual acts of violence against LGBTQ specific events. So there is this looming fear and threat around our community. It's always existed. It's amped up more than ever, I think, today. And America's more dangerous than ever. I mean, if we look at the school shootings and what's going on in this country. So if you're a marginalized community who has often been used to know your place in society through fear and violence, this is not a great moment for us. What's amazing, though, in our study that we just released is that America's not behind this, right? A supermajority are for LGBTQ equality. Like 84%, 96% of Americans believe that all schools should be completely accepting for all youth. So this rhetoric is just that. It's a small minority. It's a rhetoric. It is It owns the airwaves right now, though. And a big part of that is because if you look at the statistics, 30% of Americans say they know someone who's transgender. So 70% of the country is coming to know transgender people through reporting out what Ron DeSantis has to say or Greg Abbott.
So, Sarah Kate, these are obviously terribly turbulent cultural times. But was there a spark? Was there a moment in the last 10 years or so when there was such a violent and hysterical overreaction to drag shows, LGBTQ clothing? Was there a moment or a couple of moments? Do you know?
So I would say pre-marriage equality, we saw quite a bit of legislation, proposed legislation. Basically George Bush ran on banning LGBTQ marriages. And so we did see a big backlash and a blip in a moment when there was progress happening. Whenever there's progress, there is a snapback reaction to it, right? And that's what we're seeing right now. As more people are understanding who transgender and gender nonconforming folks are, there is a snapback. And it's a small minority of people. Americans are welcoming. Americans believe in equality. Americans believe that everyone should live the life they love. And so I think this is a very small group of people with an outsized voice in a moment that is being fed by politicians. I mean, these politicians are building their careers and are fundraising off the backs of LGBTQ folks right now.
All right, the president and CEO of GLAAD, Sarah Kate Ellis, thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. We really appreciate it.